Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is May the 5th, 2015. I'm Cindy K. Courier, and it is almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon here at Lake Norman in North Carolina. And this is my second video of the day. I want to bring you some stuff. You know, if you've watched my other videos, you've seen that we have pieced together a stream of evidence showing that researchers believe that the Dulce base is there and that there's strong indication that it's still active. Documents that I've seen recently indicate that the closer researchers have gotten to the entities that are down there, the deeper they go. And so that could be an explanation for why we haven't found them yet. There are maps circulating that show several deep underground bases around the United States. If you check out my videos, you'll see some of them. There are also maps circulating that show tunnels that connect those bases. You will also see how Walmarts connect to some of the bases and some of the tunnels. And as we go on, we will begin to, in fact, we've already begun to hear about more big box store closings because we've received information about Lowe's, Home Depot, and others that are connected to the Department of Homeland Security, potentially NASA, and other government agencies. And so, you know, I feel we've done a pretty good job substantiating some of the things that have been said. So we won't belabor that part anymore. What we want to get to is educating ourselves on what may be down there and what we can do about it. And so I thought I would bring to you some documents, and I will put a link to where you can download this PDF. This is called the Pulsar Project, and I believe this was completed around 1990 or so. It was an investigation carried out into alien life forms. And the writer of this report, of these notes, is not listed here. But the introduction to the report, you know, says that this document may disturb you. And so I will say the same thing. What we're going to talk about today, you actually may find disturbing. So what I want to say is, if you are vulnerable right now, if you're going through some kind of loss or some kind of acute traumatic stress, or if you've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, or if you just feel vulnerable right now, go ahead and put this video aside for later. If you're of a strong constitution and feel ready to dig in, I would encourage you to gather with a few of your friends to watch these. These videos that I'm doing now may challenge your worldview. And if you look at the comments below, yeah, you're going to see that. There's some pretty interesting stuff being said. And just to put all curiosity aside, I work independently. I'm not part of any group. I'm not part of any religious group. I don't have an organization. When I say we, I am talking about the people who listen to these videos, who chime in and help with the research, who send me stuff, most of the time anonymously. I get sent stuff from people who, you know, tell me that they're in the military, they don't want to reveal their name, and so I don't press it. Most of the people who are giving me documents and sending me links are people who have said, please do not reveal my name. And so I don't. But the Skype teams that I've worked with, they're people like you who wrote and said, hey, what's your Skype address? And so we've developed teams. Those teams were to write a constitution, or Articles of Confederation for the Republic of Earth. We've done that, and so that project is finished. But later on, I'll be giving out, the Skype address again, so that anyone who wants to get in on groups, discussion groups, can do that. I think that's important to do, as a matter of fact. And so it's my intention to get to that. But I don't have a belief system. I'm open to all input. I feel like that's the most productive way to go about things right now. Once you're locked in a belief system, then you start looking for things to substantiate what you already believe, and then the risk of missing things is pretty high. And so correlation does not necessarily equal causation. But when you've got when you've already ascribed to a belief system or a religion, or you've got a group that's taking an angle on something, you tend to make correlations and assume causations that aren't there. So let's just put all that to rest. No, I'm not a New Age person in any way, shape, or form. So those of you who are, please continue to watch if you want to. Our worldviews need to be adjusted. Americans have assumed that we were sort of at the top of the heap in the world. And we have taken on an attitude of superiority, in general I'm talking now, that isn't warranted in any way, shape, or form. The positive side of that, you know how I am, I like to frame things in a positive way if I can. The positive side to that is, if we're a little bit cocky and confident, that's going to come in handy, because we're going to need that strength. We're going to need our confidence. We like to think of ourselves as a courageous people. And so courage doesn't mean no fear. Courage means you take the fear and you use it to your advantage. That's what courage is. There's no such thing as courage if there's not a little bit of fear there. And so that's where I come from on that. So let's take a look at this report. Put my glasses on here. This is about 60 pages or so. And if you see these titles, Alien Pharmacology for Humans, just take a look at some of this. And they've studied adrenaline pretty heavily. The MK Ultra Project, yeah, mind control, big time. And there's some spots on language, and we'll get to that. So here we see some of their biochemistry stuff. Sorry, the fan on my computer just kicked in, and when that happens, my voice gets drowned out, so I really apologize. Let's go down alien psychic abilities. Yeah. That's interesting. I'm assuming you're all going to take a look at this on your own. Please do. I'm trying to find, there's the part about the crafts. I want to find the language part, because that's very interesting. Okay, here's what some of the grays look like. A couple videos ago, you saw in a movie called Jupiter Ascending some grays messing with a lady. There are a variety of them. And here are some drawings of some of them. They have names, as you see. There are, close to 200 alien races supposedly around here. Some of them are cloned. And this document talks about where, the constellations that they're from. Kind of reminds you of the Pope, doesn't he? This is some writing. Talks about the MK Ultra project. I don't want to make y'all dizzy. But here's some of their language. Nordic and Pleiadian, Vegan ancient language, and Sirius written language. Interesting, huh? Orion, Ontarian, Gray universal written language. You know, some of you may have gotten some communications that look like this. I know I've gotten a hold of some that I don't know that they were from aliens, but okay, so that's this. I would encourage you to take a look at this. Oh, there's a section on cloning. And the government's philosophy, as you see, the government really can't deny this anymore. We have too much stuff. So that's that. The next document I want us to look at together is from a man named Paul Benowitz. And he's writing a report. He is an electrical physicist he lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico, real close to an Air Force base, where he saw lights and got curious and began observing and doing some research and taking very close notes on what he saw. And of course, he had no reason, to hide what he saw. He thought the military would be interested. I believe it's Kirkland Air Force Base that's in that area. He reported his findings, and of course, their behavior was a little bit suspicious. Subsequently, to make a long story short, he was some stories began to circulate that he was set up to believe these things, and that his observations were fake alien observations that were fed to him by someone. And of course, an astute observer can see, once the Air Force finds out this stuff with what we know now, they're the ones keeping all this stuff secret. They've enabled this. The Air Force runs our, if you look at several videos ago, I gave you a communication that was pretty startling about mind control, that it was operated through the Air Force. So we know that our Draco reptilians have a pretty tight relationship with the Air Force. And so he was made to look like a crazy guy and spent some time in a mental hospital. Later, though, researchers were able to validate his findings. But if you do a search, if you Google his name, you'll find a lot of, not a lot, but some videos that, raising the question, well, what really happened? How much of Paul Benowitz's story is true? And some people think he was crazy because there were one or two books written about his story, painting him in a negative light, just like the whole Phil Schneider thing. There seems to be a concerted effort to shut people up who have had experience with these things and talked about it. But anyway, let's take a look. That's the link that I'll send you to the document we just now looked at. Here's Paul Benowitz's report, and I'm not going to read. This is pretty long. Let me scroll through just to show you how long it is. That's how long this report is. I'll put this link below the video. But it opens in a pretty interesting way, and I'll read the first paragraph and then some of these points. He calls this Operation Retaliation, Paul Benowitz, One Man Against an Empire. Following are quotations from a document, actually a detailed report called Project Beta, which was compiled by scientist Paul Benowitz for officials at Kirkland Air Force Base who were working with Benowitz in an operational plan to bring down the alien base at Dulce, New Mexico. That was until other interests deep within the intelligence community got involved and brought enormous pressure against Benowitz and various Kirkland Air Force Base officials. They named some of those officials who were involved to cease the investigation. Although Paul has apparently been silenced, The discoveries which he has made in regard to the physical, technological aspects of activity taking place in and around Dulce cannot be silenced. Project Beta is apparently a proposed plan for a physical military attack on one of the major or key basing installations of the Draconis Orion Reticuli forces, and may be useful in any future attempts to retake the base from alien or alien-controlled elements and to set free the human captives who are apparently being held in cold storage or in subterranean prisons deep below the surface of the American Southwest and beyond. Before dealing with the report itself, we will quote some correspondence between Benowitz and others, beginning with excerpts from Paul's March 1986 letter to Clifford Stone, now director of UFO Contact International in Albuquerque. Okay, that's enough right there for a little bit of a head trip, isn't it? They're saying that there was a Project Beta, a plan for a physical military attack on one of the major key basing installations of the Draconis Orion Reticuli forces. You know, I'm not sure we should go on with this video until we've had a chance to digest that. This document is claiming that there has been a plan to rescue some humans being held there. And so, again, as I always say, you know, if someone's saying there are humans down there, whether the report is 10 years old, 20 years old, or 30 years old, we have an obligation to find out and to do more than a perfunctory investigation, to do a very thorough one in such a manner that anyone trying to obfuscate or blockade the effort would be exposed and dealt with immediately. And of course, I'm still researching that document. I'm not sure if there have been follow-up documents. You know, I'm still working on that. One of the reasons I'm going ahead, I just received this yesterday. One of the reasons I'm going ahead and sharing it with you is so you all can participate and help with this research, because the research part needs to get done so that we can take action. If what I am reading in this and other documents is true, the situation could be that some draconian forces are feeling threatened by humans and feel that it's time to make their move now. That they don't really care for us that much, and they would like to get rid of us. Most of us are, you know, if we take that and put that next to our idea, okay, that the feds want to, they've built FEMA camps and the feds want to control us and it's a Nazi thing or a communist thing. Sure, they want you to think that. But it's really a draconian thing. Subterranean races thing. Now, if you'll read some of the stuff that we'll be looking at, you'll discover that they have the ability to take on the looks of a human. How are they able to do that? Through holographic technology. Technically, we're all kind of holograms, you know. Now you can do a search on that and find some really neat information that'll help you understand how that's true. We've been using a very retro sort of physics in our culture, because if we, you know, if we really understood the kind of physics that they understand, we would be able to manipulate these holograms the same way that they do. I'm told by people who have actually seen these beings and dealt with them that they are able to, they don't need a hole in the ground to pop up. They don't need to pop up into Walmart in order to get to the surface. They can come through stone, they can come through dirt, they can move through what we think of as solid surfaces. So what it appears what appears to be so is that these subterranean races have surface counterparts in the way of government people who have set up means for them to get supplies through big box stores. And so why are our big box stores closing now? We're waking up and finding out, hey, we don't really like how these things are operating. We're not giving them the kind of business we were. Also, the United States is being isolated financially, and so we're not able to, pretty soon we won't be doing the kind of trade that we've been doing internationally. So there's a feeling of threat in these bases. So what I'm expecting is a reaction. And I imagine that our military knows this and is helping manage it. What I was told the other day was that I was assuming the militia knew, and it's very likely that our militia don't know. And our militia need to know. Okay, so what can we do about this? That's the beautiful thing. If you take a look at this document, that's why I think this document's very helpful, because Paul Benowitz was able to interact with these beings and discover that they operated on fear. And the thing about that is, I'm not sure where I read that. I don't want to take up time to read verbatim through this when you can read it yourself, but piecing together what I've been told and what I've heard and what I've read, it seems that these beings feed on humans. They eat them. In a minute I'm going to play a piece from a researcher who says that. They are sort of disempowered. They lose their motivation when there's no comeback or no fear from people. As you saw in the movie Jupiter Ascending, the Greys, when they're found out, they're like, if they can operate under cover and in secrecy, they seem to be okay. But the minute we know about them and are looking at them and calling them out, they're like, phew. That's the Greys. The bigger beings that you saw in Jupiter Ascending, the ones with wings, and those, 3-toed feet. I'm told that they have individual personalities. They're not as hivish as the Greys, and if we see them, they'll likely attack, but not always. They have ability to reason. They're sentient, and some of them, depending on how much of the draconian blood they have, some of them are even kind. So that's where it gets confusing. You can't just say, well, all draconians are horrible and evil. It takes discernment, and that's where the spiritual part comes in. We need to be able to discern what we're dealing with, and that means reading the energy. And no, that is not New Age. That's science, and it's common sense. Read the vibe. We do that all the time without realizing it. When the hair on the back of our neck stands up, we're reading the vibe of something. Our body picks up what's going on before our logical, conscious mind does. So if we're in our bodies, solidly grounded in our bodies, that's one reason why being grounded is so important, so that we can sense what's going on. Our government controllers are part of this group. They don't like us. They're not for us. Sorry, but they're not. They have, all through the ages, kept us ungrounded with silly things like the pledge to a flag. They didn't have us saying our pledge to our country. They made us think that that's what that was, but we were saying the Pledge of Allegiance to a flag. That's very abstract, It's very ungrounding. They've had us in religious activities, not spiritual activities, but religious, ritual, stuff that doesn't make sense, but we do it out of habit because our ancestors did it. It's very ungrounding. If we really got in our body, we'd say, whoa, wait a minute. What's with the stand up, sit down, kneel to pray, stand to pray, what's up with that, you know? There's just some pieces of logic missing there. So we need to be fully grounded in our bodies, and that's part of what this is about. You know, we've glorified the spiritual and neglected our physicality. And our physicality is gifted with sensing abilities, just like birds, you know. They sense the magnetic fields. That's how they're able to fly in flocks and schools of fish. And we humans are like that. We've got those gifts. We've ignored them, and so we don't use them. We're plodding through life, you know, using our beta mind, you know, rather than our intuitive aspects. So if we're in our intuitive aspects and we're able to sense and move throughout our life that way, these beings can pop up out of nowhere. Yeah, so what? If we're triggerable, we will be triggered. So the recommendation I'm making is that we start working through these triggers. Work through your triggers. If something can set you off, if you've been abused in your background, and a certain look in someone's eyes can set you off, that's really common, by the way. We got to deal with that and move that through our energy field. If you've been sexually abused and certain images trigger you, we need to begin resolving that stuff so that we're not so triggerable, so that we are responding to life from a place of groundedness rather than reacting to life from a place of emotional trauma. Okay, actually, I was planning on spending more time on the document, and I had some videos ready to share, but I've just shared a whole bunch of stuff. So I think what I'm going to do is wrap it up for right now, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening.